I now call the meeting of the Wenatchee School Board on August 24th of 2021 to order. And before we continue any further the meeting this evening, as if anybody new has come into the room, our district is committed to following the mask mandate issued by the governor and the superintendent of public instruction. Many members of the audience are unmasked this evening. All have been offered the opportunity to be provided with a mask if they do not have one. A good majority of the people have refused to acquire a mask and to wear one. We respect everybody's right to have an opinion, and we do want to hear from each and every one of you. However, it poses some degree of risk for our district to continue with an open public meeting in violation of the governor's mandate. It is the board's decision as a whole, not mine alone, to decide what to do in this circumstance. And so I'd like to open the floor to the board members to make a motion or to offer direction. I'll start. I would be comfortable with excusing staff from the meeting to the extent they're public employees and we're concerned about them as employees. I would also be willing to proceed with the meeting because I don't think there's a clear indication in the proclamation that we can avoid doing business if we have folks exercising their right to without without them following the guidelines. So I said I'm in favor of protecting our staff and then business.
I believe that we should all be wearing masks, both legally, lawfully, the Secretary of Health, and the instructions we have as a responsible board taking care of our obligations and duties. I believe I would like to reiterate the offer to everybody to have a mask, and then you may speak. That is my position.
I will second what Martin said. If we can't get the audience to protect everyone, including our staff, we need our staff to follow through with our presented agenda. And if we cannot comply with the state mandate, then I would suggest we adjourn the meeting.
I believe our district has been trying to do what is right to keep people safe. If the governor has issued a mask mandate and our district follows regulations, I believe we should follow that for a public meeting. If the community members who have arrived who choose not to mask would like to see the meeting, we do have a Zoom option. Nobody is being forced to wear a mask to watch the meeting. They may also watch it from a Zoom. They may do the Zoom option. So it is not, it is an option that is available for everyone, whether you want to wear a mask or not. So I would suggest if people are not comfortable wearing a mask, that they exit. We can certainly pause the meeting so people can go get on Zoom and we can continue with the meeting. I'm in favor of taking a brief recess for people if they wish to leave and do it via Zoom. If people choose not to leave to do it via Zoom, then I suggest that we adjourn the meeting and reconvene online because we do need to follow the governor's mandate. Thank you.
In either one of those options, outside of staying in the room, whether the board moves to Zoom or whether the audience moves to Zoom, there is an opportunity for public input. And I would have to leave it to staff to provide the instructions on how to do that. But we have a link online, I believe, where you can make a request to give your public comment online, and we will definitely allow that. If we go online, or if you choose to leave and go online, we will hear your public comment. We are not trying to stifle public comment. We do want to hear what you have to say.
Can I ask one quick question? What's the board to do? The governor mandates that everybody has to wear shirts on Thursdays.
This isn't the time where we're having a conversation with the public. And right now, the decision is,
It was nice to hear me.
will you wear a mask and stay? Will you choose to leave and go online? Or if the majority of the participants in the room refuse to wear a mask, then it will be up to the board to decide whether to adjourn and to resume the meeting online. In any and all cases, the public will be allowed to participate in public comment. So,
But you can do that, but 10 times more people are gonna show up to the next meeting, if that's what you choose.
That's
Guarantee it.
Julie Norton's option.
Or what was your stance? I'd like to have everybody hear where you stand on this issue.
what is my stance?
What's your, I reheard where everybody else stands. I'd like to hear what you have to say, what your opinion is on this.
My opinion is that we need to comply with the governor's mandate at this time. Do I wish that it was different and that we didn't have to wear masks? Absolutely. Do I think it's good for children to wear masks to school? No, I do not. And at the same time, there is a potential public health risk. So we have a duty and responsibility to weigh those risks and to make decisions accordingly. So I think what we're going to do now is we're going to recess for 10 minutes and come back and see what you all have decided. And then we will take appropriate action from that point.
Just go ahead with your, you're gonna adjourn.
We're not
We don't
leaving.
need to recess. We don't need to recess.
We don't need a recess. We don't need to discuss it. We have rights.
I think it's appropriate to take a recess. I don't know whether 10 minutes is the right amount of time for and make their personal choices more.
Okay. The board is good with that? Okay, we'll take a 10-minute recess. So we have taken our recess, and it appears to me that the bulk of the audience has chosen to remain. As a matter of fact, it looks like mostly those who have left were the folks that were actually complying with the mandates. So
So we get the meeting going.
So I have a question.
we have, this is not a time for discussion with the board, I'm sorry.
No, they're not.
So I would like to entertain a motion from the board on our next action.
Laura, may I ask one question prior to the motion?
Yes,
I believe the only item on the budget that's time, on the meeting that is time critical is to approve budget.
we do also have a policy update
But I
that's,
mean, literally 24-hour time.
yes. Mhm.
Well, yeah. Prior to making a motion, I would, well,
Okay.
I guess this is a fact finding. There could be a longer adjournment for a number of the items, including citizen comment, to have a more orderly and law abiding meeting.
I don't
Only
think-
do-
Hold on a second. Oh,
Yeah,
I don't feel like there's anybody who's, violating the law, so
Okay.
let's not go there right now.
right.
I think we have some choices here. We can stay in the room and conduct the meeting as it is. We can adjourn and each go to our respective offices at home or wherever they may be and conduct the meeting online. Or some other version of that. I heard a suggestion about us leaving and anyway, in any case, public comment will be allowed. And it is the duty of the board to continue to conduct the business of the district. And so I just want us to keep that in mind, that we have a duty to conduct the business of the district. And we also have a duty to collect public input when there is such.
That's all right, I agree.
Say again?
That's it, that's fine, go ahead.
Okay, so I am looking for a motion from the board as to which action you would like to take right now in terms of the continuation of this meeting. How should we proceed?
I would make a motion to proceed with the meeting in person, excusing staff if they feel like they need to participate via Zoom, given our obligation as the district to protect our employees and our contractors and volunteers. But then proceed in person with the remainder of the meeting.
Is there a second to that motion? Hearing none. Is there another motion on the table?
I move that we adjourn to remote meeting.
Just,
Yeah.
I think we need a second for purposes of discussion and then vote it down to fail it, and then we need to, and then to,
If
have
there's,
another motion for new.
if there's no second, there's no second.
I second it.
I will second the motion for the purpose of discussion.
Thank you.
So my just remaining discussion on that is we've already been meeting now for, 10 minutes. So it's a little strange to open a meeting, then say we're not gonna, not gonna have a meeting. So that's part of the reason why I think it doesn't make sense. It looks like the folks who have decided to stay are those, they're citizens. We've told them what the requirements are. We as a district enforce the requirements. But I think we've kind of already been meeting with them in the presence, so it doesn't, it just adds delay in my mind if we adjourn and go home and reconvene at another.
And I'm thank you, Julie, and I'm gonna weigh in on that on a personal level. I do have a duty and responsibility to continue the business of the board. However, in my personal life, I also have direct care for 3 individuals who are in their 80s. And I personally am not comfortable spending a long amount of time in a room full of people who are not masked with unknown vaccination status, and that is the personal position that I have in life. And for that reason, I am not in favor of continuing the business of the board under these circumstances.
Thank you, Laura. Personal reasons as well. I have a 9-year-old, a fourth grader, that is scheduled to start school tomorrow. He's not vaccinated. And for the same reasons as Laura, the safety of my family, I don't feel safe as well. Conducted a meeting with a group of unmasked people without known vaccination status as well. I agree, we need to continue with the agenda of the school board and allow our staff to present as planned. So I am not in favor of continuing without complying with the mask mandate.
So be the conclusion of the board that.
It's
masks
not
are
time for a
inappropriate.
discussion. I'm sorry, we're not having a discussion with the public right now.
My name's Luke
I'm
Dietrich.
sorry.
I'm
We
sorry.
are not.
You were mentioning about your
We
children. I have a
will-
6-year-old
we will
daughter. I have a
adjourn the
3-year-old son, and I have a 1-year-old son. And I feel it's unsafe for what you guys are forcing down their throats. The teaching you're bringing them, the making them wear masks.
will continue the business on hand. We have an unseconded motion to meet with our staff with public citizens wearing or not wearing masks as they wish. That motion has not been seconded.
It was seconded by Laura.
It was seconded, and therefore I would call for a vote on motion. All those in favor, please signal aye.
Aye.
All those opposed?
Aye.
Oh.
Nay. Opposed, aye. Nay.
So the motion to continue in that format has failed.
Where's Laura?
Where's our
So
other two, Michelle? Hopefully with your vote.
we have a quorum of three, and I'm the president, interim chair of the meeting at the moment. So I am looking for another motion as to how to continue this meeting.
I would like to make a motion that we reconvene in a virtual remote option. Second for discussion.
Any discussion?
Again, I just want to reinforce we do have an agenda to follow. We have court business to conduct. And we welcome citizen comments in our remote option. If that's, our agenda will continue as presented. And for the safety of our community, complying with the state mandate, I support the motion to go remote.
I will just add that we voted against continuing the meeting. The audience here, the citizens, do have an opportunity to express their points of view online and at later meetings, and we will bend over backwards to make sure that opportunity is available. They also had the opportunity to wear masks in accordance with the mandate under which we are obliged to follow and chose not to. And with that background, we will then adjourn the meeting in 30 minutes.
We have the vote.
I thought we had voted. No?
No.
All right, sorry, I called the vote. Who's name? To
go remote.
To go remote. Sorry, you've got an amateur president right now. He'll correct himself and get it right. I call for the vote on the second motion to take the meeting remote. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
I'm not an aye,
Yeah.
but I
Those
think a
opposed?
minority can adjourn the meeting legally.
So board, we will reconvene in 30 minutes online. Okay? All right, thank you.
And the notice will be posted.
Yes.
I will adjourn this meeting for 30 minutes.
Hey Laura, this is Ron. Do you know what time we were from your half an hour? I had about 7:25. Is that about right?
5:1. 5:1 was our time. Corey kept the time.
So 7:21, we should be
Yeah.
about ready at this point. Just so you know, we have our public commenters lined up. I'm going to be the one who calls them tonight when you get to that point in the agenda. And I will let them into the Zoom meeting with their video and their microphone for their 3 minutes. And Kim will be doing the timer again through her camera. So.
Okay, so what? The conversation that I just had with Paul said that we were going to do our essential business and then sign off. Are we now saying that we're going to do public comment as well?
I think you have to. Just because we told them all there that they would have opportunity to have public comment.
Is it
Okay.
possible that we could shorten the comment period? Because,
Board has that prerogative to be able
I
to,
mean, the board has the prerogative of not even allowing comment. So we can shorten comment if we have a lot of business to do. You know,
How many people are signed up? There was quite a long list.
We have actually 9 officially asking for public comment.
Okay,
I haven't checked the attendee list to see if all 9 are in the room currently, but we have up to 9 that have signed on. And I've been paying attention to the signups. We haven't gotten any additional during the recess time.
okay, well, 9 is only 27 minutes, so I'm fine with that. But the board can, it's my understanding that the board can allot a time frame such as 45 minutes or an hour to take public comment. And then, you know, if the 3-minute limit fits within that, that's great. But then we could also say, you know, we're going to take public comment for an hour. That really allows each person for, you know, 2 minutes if there are more than 30 people.
yeah, that also assumes we start our meetings earlier. We're already an hour, almost an hour and a half behind, so.
And just a reminder, we did keep the live stream going. We are currently streaming during recess and waiting, since if we stopped it, we would have had to recreate all those links. So we've been on black screens until you've joined with the camera, just so you know.
We just had a comment from somebody who says they can't find the Zoom link.
It's on our board webpage, on our board agenda for tonight.
Okay, so anybody who's listening should be able to hear that, right? I mean,
Yep.
okay. So on the board, on the Wenatchee Schools.org website, under board meetings, there's an agenda and there's a link to sign up.
and Ron, would you please resend board member Norton a
Just did
link
that.
again? Thank you.
Okay, so it's my understanding that we are 3 minutes past the time when we were supposed to reconvene. So, and is it my understanding also that we have a motion on the floor that needs to be
The
resolved?
motion-
The
Nope,
the motion was resolved.
correct.
okay,
Where we
very
can
good.
go right into public comment. And then I would ask the board to adjust the agenda after public comment. I can make that request to the board.
Okay, so shall we also continue with the agenda as it is written up until that point, as in the consent agenda? I assume there are payroll items and so on that need to be approved.
Yes, thank you.
Okay. And then the items that I'm seeing are the policies from second read from last time, the resolution regarding the budget and the waiver are the high priorities that I see on the agenda. If there are staff people waiting to present on financial literacy, then we certainly can do that. But
We would like for them to get themselves ready for school tomorrow.
okay, so you've excused everybody. Does that include the CTE 4-year plan and the Wenatchee Valley Technical Skills Center plan?
Correct.
Okay, so the important items on the agenda are the consent agenda, citizen comments, the policy second read, and the resolution regarding the budget, and the resolution regarding the waiver of the minimum 180 days. Okay, perfect. All right, so is Julie with us? I don't see her yet.
Let me touch base with her one more time.
We are past the time, so I'm gonna say that
Start.
we should
So our
continue.
agenda is still the same, is that correct?
Say what?
What is dropped out of the agenda?
We have financial literacy special presentations, which we will not do.
Mhm.
We have policy updates first read, which we will not do. And we have the CTE and the Wenatchee Valley Technical Skills Center 4-year plans, which we will not do tonight. They'll be deferred. Okay, so I'm going to call the meeting again to order. I hope Julie is on her way to join us. The first item on our agenda this evening is the consent agenda, which includes the minutes from the August 10th meeting, the budget hearing and the regular meeting, vouchers and payroll, personnel report, surplus report, and contracts. Is there a motion to approve the consent agenda?
I move approval of the consent agenda as written.
Thank you.
I will second the motion.
Okay, seconded by Maria. And so now we've got to get used to doing this again. So we'll be doing a roll call since we are online again. So those in favor individually signify by saying aye when I call your name. Martin?
Aye.
Michelle?
Aye.
Maria?
Aye.
And Laura is aye as well. Thank you. Okay, moving down to action items in section 6. We have dispense with item, oh, no, I'm sorry. Be quiet. We're moving straight to citizens' comments, and then we're going to move to the next item. Sorry about that. So please tell me who the first person is that we have to speak. Are they already signed in, Ron?
Yep, they're in attendance. There's Julie. All right, great. They're in attendance in the meeting. So our first speaker tonight is Kyle Hart. Those who are listening in the Zoom meeting, I will put you over to a spot where you can turn on your camera and turn on your microphone. And then you have your 3 minutes once you get that established. So Kyle Hart is first.
So are people in a position where they can see the 3-minute clock?
That is up to their own computer and their monitor and how big their window is to see those things.
So we would ask that you limit your comments to 3 minutes, and if you cannot see the 3-minute clock that Kim is holding up, that you would monitor your own time. And so we would welcome Kyle to begin.
And Kyle declined.
Kyle declined.
We'll go to the
Okay.
next name, Cassandra Gillespie. Let me move her over. And she should get the ability to turn on her camera here in a second. And Cassandra has also declined.
Okay.
Debbie Hilva is next. Let me look at the list. I don't see her in the list. Andrew Winter is our next name. Let me look at the list. I don't see an Andrew Winter. Eric Chase was the next commenter. Let me ask him. Okay, he is going to be popping in here in a second.
Okay,
and here he comes. And Eric, you should be able to turn your camera on and do your public comment virtually. There he is.
Hey, can you hear me?
Yep.
Just let me know when I need to start.
you go. You're on.
My name is Eric. I live in Lower Sunny Slope area and a tax-paying citizen of Chelan County. I'd like to make a comment on policy 5252. While I appreciate the more distilled and detailed work you've done since the last board meeting on this policy and the subsequent policy 2331, I still have concerns. My concerns are not regarding the nature of the policy itself or procedures set to ensure checks and balances, opposing views, and the multi-layered decision matrices that all seems well in hand in the new policy read. My concern mostly has to do with the discretionary and discernment elements of these policies. I'll start by quoting some of the phrases in the policies to illustrate this. Number one, teachers will exercise professional judgment in determining the appropriateness of the issue to the curriculum and the maturity of the students. Number two, in the event of complaints from other staff or community members regarding potential controversy communication, the superintendent or designee will review the matter to determine whether the communication is permissible. Approval from superintendent designee is subject to review by the superintendent at their discretion. And number four, if the matter is still unresolved, the complaints may file a written appeal to the school board and that board shall make final resolutions agreeing to the issue. Can you see a pattern forming here in the source of my concerns? With all this new policy, layers of authority to make decisions, hoops to jump through, the problem still is not solved, just made more complicated. You see at the core of the reason this policy is being created, it's still a problem of leadership and the decisions you make regarding what is deemed appropriate expression. At the end of the day, the superintendent and board are making the call on what are facts, how they're distributed, what is permissible communication, what is controversial and what is not. I could go on, but you get the point. If the discretion is yours, the question is also yours. What is appropriate? Is it appropriate to hang gender unicorn posters in our grade schools? Will we say no? What is going to be the appropriate expression when it comes to fulfilling state mandate 5044, diversity, equity, and inclusion training? Is hiring an officer, a DEI officer at the sum of 96 per year appropriate? We say no. What about state mandate 3935 of comprehensive sex education? If it's appropriate, if we over-sexualize our kids through what is deemed appropriate staff expression, I also say no. What about expression when it comes to critical race theory, intersectionality, equality of outcome versus equality of opportunity, gender, race, vaccine, and mask mandates? I could go on and on. I'm sorry, but your track record of discerning what is appropriate compared to the cultural norms and expectations of our local community is abysmal. Members of the board and Superintendent Gordon, you have a community trust problem that no amount of policy will solve. We don't trust your discernment or discretion, period. In closing, I would like to help encourage you to pursue more appropriate careers and volunteer opportunities that fit your leadership abilities. And from this moment on, we're putting you on notice. Thank you.
Thank you. Is the next person ready to comment?
We have up next Matt Van Bogart. So let me grab his name from the list here and bring him in. Here we go. Okay, here he comes. Matt Van Bogart declined to comment. So next up, Rachel Petro. And she is coming in here. Give it a second.
Glad I didn't get a ticket rushing home. Good evening. My name is Rachel Petro. I am a parent that lives in Wenatchee School District, and I was really looking forward to testifying in person. This Zoom business is kind of crazy, so I'm really disappointed that we weren't able to do that tonight. I would like to continue to encourage the board to take a look at your governance and how you operate your meetings as far as interaction with the public. I understand that, of course, you can choose to not do public comment. You can shorten public comment. But I would encourage you to think, in addition to having that public comment at the beginning of your meeting, to have comments after a presentation is made on a policy, and then discussion among the board members, and then hear from the public. That is pretty much standard operating procedure in most legislative bodies, which you are all elected. So I would just like to encourage you to, I know you did that a few times last year, but I just think it would be a lot more conducive to actual communication, and you understanding and have, folks having the benefit of the presentation and what the board members think, and then to be able to weigh in, I think would just be more instructional as elected officials getting actual input in your meetings. Anyway, I'm hopeful for a new school year. We're looking forward to a new school year. So with that, I will pass my time. Although I did want to say, I do support the red line version of policy 5252. So I just wanted to say that. I noticed there were two, one popped up later. I definitely would encourage you to support the red line version. Thank you.
Thank you. Who is next, please?
Next up, Jeff Ovitt. And he is coming in here in a second.
Hello?
Yes.
Can you hear me?
We can.
All right.
Do you have a camera, Jeff?
I do. Can you see me? I'm not sure.
No. Can you?
I'm not real familiar with the system. So as long as you can hear me, I guess we'll be fine if that's all right with you.
Okay.
I'm just feeling a little disappointed at the way you guys handled the situation just today. I just think that, you didn't have to push everyone out. You could have simply let them talk themselves and hear them out. They're local people. They're tax supporters. And I just feel like, as a tax-paying community person here, I want them to be able to have a voice, just like I have one right now. And I'm pretty sure there's a lot of people that don't get to see or hear what's going on right now because of the way you guys reacted to this. Please keep the forum open and allow other people to speak, please. Whether there's masks there or not, you need to listen to them, please. That's all I have to say. Thank you.
Thank you. Next.
And that concludes our commenters that have not declined to make the comment tonight.
Okay, thank you. All right, so now we will move on to our action items, and we have policies second read, and we have policy 5252, and we have two different versions of that policy. And then we have the procedure, which the board does not approve because that is a staff action to implement the procedures. So
Laura, I think we had somebody in the chat that signed up for.
I just noticed that, and we must have missed her, so I totally apologize, Laura. There is one that just let us know she did sign up, and I just looked and she did sign up. So
okay, great.
Shayna Morgan is her name, so let me go grab her.
Okay, very good. Thank you for noticing that.
Yeah, it is quite the infrastructure to notice all the and bring everybody in. So I'm going to bring in Shayna here, and she should be popping in here in a second. Apologize, Shayna, but you should be good to go here in a second. There she is. And you should be able to turn on your camera. There we go.
There we go. Sorry for the confusion. My name is Shanna Morgan. I'm a recent graduate and a community member, just like anyone else. To start off with, I want to thank the board for their diligence in upholding the masking guidelines that are mandated by the state and CDC to keep our students, staff, and families safe. My peers and I went through the past year and a half in school in the middle of COVID. I know what it's like to follow strict COVID protocols and what it was frustrating, but it was manageable. I had no problem with it because I kept my families and peers safe. I didn't have a normal graduation or even a normal senior year, but honestly, I don't regret it or miss it because it was still a monumental and important day and year in my life. And I'm glad that the school took the necessary precautions to keep us as students safe. Now, as it is quite obvious that everyone is fired up right now, people are fighting for representation that they deserve. But the main group that is being left out of this discussion is our students. I asked the board to find effective ways to listen to our students, as that is the area I have the most experience in myself as a recent graduate. During the last school year, I was an outspoken advocate for student representative programs. Our students are at the center of everything in our district, and every decision affects them. Our students need representation in the decision-making process. And a student representative program is one of the best ways to do that. But while it is a good solution, it's not an immediate one, and we need something more concrete. This needs to be addressed now. This disconnect cannot continue during this COVID season we are in right now. At this point, our students are being misrepresented and drowned out by louder, older, more outspoken, more pushy voices, and our students aren't getting what they need. And so I implore to the board to reach out to our students on a deeper level to find out what they need, instead of listening to all of the outspoken voices pretending they know what our students need. We need to listen to our students about what they need and care about. Our students don't feel safe expressing their concerns or needs within our district. That is a fact. And this needs to change so that we work towards helping our students by not only listening to them, but taking care of them. Thank you.
Thank you, Sheena. Okay, I don't see any more messages in the chat. So I presume that our public comment period is now over for this meeting. And we are moving back to action items, policy second read, policy 5252, which we have two versions of in the packet. And Paul, would you like to summarize the difference?
I would, Laura. Thank you. So again, board, thank you. And thank you for the really good conversation at the previous board meeting where we had the first read of the 5252. From that, I took the board's feedback and created, drafted up two different versions. The biggest difference is in 5252 is where in the first paragraph of the red line version, substantial is removed. And then the last sentence, there's an additional sentence there that says this may include action in response to expression made as a private citizen on a matter of public concern when substantial disruption results or is otherwise reasonably predicted to result. So that's, and then the other version leaves in substantial. Gotcha. And really feeling like this is that place where we're at, is to either keep the term substantial in the policy or to remove it. It is really where we're at. I think we've worked it into a very comprehensive policy. And as Laura said, no changes to the procedure. The procedure the board did not offer any other feedback on the procedure. And so the procedure is the same as it was presented in the first read. Laura?
Okay, so I would like to lead off the discussion by saying removing the word substantial in my mind removes some of the subjectivity to it, because if something interferes, it interferes, and we don't have to have an additional discussion about whether or not it is substantial. So that's my input.
And I'll add, the reason I continue to advocate for removing substantial from that, and I believe this was vetted with our legal counsel as being okay, is I was concerned there's the public free speech right, and then there's the employer side of a free speech right. And I'm concerned by leaving substantial in there the way it was, that we're applying the public free speech right instead of the employer. You have a little bit more restricted speech in your employer's premises. And so this is meant to be a district internal policy for postings in the school buildings during school, not necessarily meant to regulate conduct outside the school, those types of things. But it's got that reminder in there, which is the blue, that is, if your public civil rights issues infringe in such a way, then it could result in an internal violation. But this to me, the way the version 2 reads is it is clear that we're talking only about internal speech, and not crossing that line into the public speech, except with this cautionary note. And because I agreed with our attorneys, there's, substantial is the standard if it's a public speech right. It's not the standard in for employer internal posting standards. So I was concerned that there was that discrepancy there. There was the ability, if I'm looking at this as a third party, an ability to interpret paragraphs 1 and paragraphs 2 as applying differently inside the building. And so I didn't want, I didn't think that was appropriate. So I prefer the version 2, because I think it gets to Martin's, meets Martin's requests in terms of adding the kind of substantial nature in certain areas, but it's also compliant with the public-private dynamic of speech rights.
Paul, just for clarity, so the policy with the word substantial, that went to the district legal counsel, and they said yes. And when we're talking about legal counsel, this is somebody that's works specifically with policies.
Correct. This is an area of expertise for this individual, and he was very comfortable with both policies, either having the substantial in or out. I had a good conversation with him with it out, and his word was, I'm very comfortable with it being out.
Okay. And then I guess the other thing, I see that the procedures also listed here as an action item. The board does not approve procedures.
Yeah, generally the board never approves procedures, but in times when it is a bad terminology, but when it's a more controversial or bigger policy, we do present them to the board. That has been our practice for at least while I've been here. And it's only happened a small handful of times.
I guess for the procedure, it's less of an approval process and more of a board. Here's our procedure, what are your thoughts on it kind of thing, right? Mm-hmm. Rather than a board, we need you to approve it, but more that you're seeking our input, that it sounds reasonable. Is that correct?
I think that's a great way of putting it, but that we're being very transparent with our process, and that our community and our board know exactly what the board could take action on.
So, I guess we've seen these two different versions, and I know the version that we had for the first read got updated quite a bit, right? And, I guess it's, I'm not a lawyer. Julie's a lawyer, I get that, but I know this was also drafted by folks who do constitutional law and education law. So I'm willing to kind of lean on them as experts. I just want to be sure that our policy is going to hold water. And I think if it's one of these gray zone areas, then I think it makes sense for our legal counsel to meet with our board about the policy if there are fine-tuned differences. because we want to be following the legal advice from our counsel, because that is their job. They are hired to do that. So I would appreciate, I appreciate the work that they've done on this so far, but if there is at all a difference between those two, I would think they would have an opinion. So I would like to hear from them. That is my feeling.
And just so the board knows, I spent many hours with legal counsel going back and forth, especially on Friday afternoon as we were closing in on trying to a good policy that works. And legal counsel was adamant with me that he supports both of these policies, and ensuring that 2331 is also an important policy because that's around those controversial issues, because that defines it. That was one of the pieces that the board really pushed back on, and rightfully so, and where legal counsel felt very comfortable was making sure that we were defining that controversial issues with greater specificity. And I think that's what we did. So seeing the totality, but Michelle, that is absolutely, if the board would want legal counsel to attend, and you can ask him any further questions, that is 100% the board's prerogative.
I think it's important that, we made the point earlier, you did, Paul, that, school is starting on August 25th, and that's tomorrow. We began examining this policy in part because it was due to be examined, but also in part because one piece of paper in our district caused a community-wide division in conversation, and it was destructive to the morale of the school employees in that particular school, and not to mention the broader district and also the community, and was distracting, quite honestly. I respect the right of every individual to have their own opinion. And I respect their private right to share those opinions and act. But when it comes to our primary duty, which is to educate children, we need to have the tools in place that it takes to kind of nip those things in the bud. This has gone on for way too long. And I personally, I support the red line version, as I said, but I could go either way. I think most importantly, it's important for us to make a decision on this topic tonight so we don't enter into another school year with the potential of another major disruption like we had in the past school year.
Yeah, sorry, Martin, just to jump in, I'll be quick. I mean, if legal counsel has vetted both and said either is fine, I don't think it's worth our time and money, especially given that school starts tomorrow, to have them opine further. I can give you my legal reasons why I think one is better than the other. I know I'm not the board's attorney, but I bring that lens. And so, respecting what they bring to the board would be appreciated. I felt like that second version reduces any inconsistencies, reduces liability exposure, reduces ways to read the policy in a way it was not intended to be read. And if legal counsel has vetted that, I don't think it would be in front of us if they didn't approve. So.
Okay, I am glad to have pending 2331 updated, because I think that's an important part of it. I also agree with moving forward now. I would end with a closing comment. I think whatever we do, and my word would be messy, it's going to be somewhat imperfect and somewhat burdensome in the interpretation. It's not an easy subject, and it's complicated. I actually prefer the clean version. I think, Yes, we are in a workplace, but we're also in a place where the free exchange of facts and ideas are supposed to happen. And that'll never happen without some people being uncomfortable. So I actually prefer the higher standard of substantial interference or substantial disruption. But that's my preference. I think it goes along with being brave, which means you recognize your neighbor's viewpoints. And students also can benefit from learning that as well. And we do have different ages of students, and part of the complication is what's appropriate at different ages is going to be difficult and burdensome to manage. But we need these policies, both of them, I think, will be an improvement on where we are.
Thank you. Maria?
Unmute. You know, I support Martin's comment. I know I say that a lot, but Martin, it makes a very valid point. I also support the clean version. And again, if this was originally vetted by our district attorney, somebody that specializes, and there was no concern with it initially with the word substantial, then I'm going to go with that initial, what was initially discussed at last board meeting and was originally vetted by our attorney, district attorney. So that's where I stand on that as well.
See, my only concern is when the policies came back to us, I was concerned given their response in the memo that the attorney didn't understand the purpose of the policy, because the guidance that we got back was entirely related to public speech, not employer speech. And so I don't know that that was clear when it went out to them, because, you know, we had discussed substantial being removed at the last board meeting, and then Martin requested it being added back in. And my concern is that makes two different standards now in this same policy. And so I think if they're comfortable with removing substantially from the top, but keeping in that protection that is meant to be substantial in an outward context, which was consistent with their memo, I think that is a less confusing, conflicting potential issue, because that was my concern when I saw substantial back in, and then I read their standard that they were applying. They're applying the public standard, and that's different. And so I was concerned that maybe they're misinterpreting the policy, and that's why I thought the second version clears it up a little bit better, but keeps the intent similar. And this is also my line of work as well. I do the government agency, the free speech. So I know I'm not the board's attorney. I get it, but this is my wheelhouse.
I think it would be helpful if we had a motion on the floor.
I move for approval.
Motion.
Go
ahead.
I move for approval of policy 5252, the clean version.
I will second that motion. Maria?
Okay, any further discussion? Okay, this will be a roll call vote. Please say aye if you approve or nay if you do not. Martin?
Aye.
Maria?
Aye.
Julie?
Nay.
Michelle?
Aye.
I also nay. Okay, but that motion carries. And so we move forward with that. Next item on our revised agenda tonight is resolution number 03-21, adoption of the 2021-22 budget.
So board members, you've heard from Jeanette quite often over the past couple of months, and with a previous board meeting where she again made the adjustments that the board was requesting. She presented that, and then tonight is literally the final action on the entire budget. So if there are any other questions, Jeanette is here for those, but I believe we're in a place now that the board can take action if they so choose.
Okay, is there a motion on the floor regarding the adoption of the budget?
I move that we adopt the budget as presented.
I'll
Great.
second that.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded. Is there any discussion?
Do we happen to have any early numbers on enrollment? I know tomorrow's the first day of school and we'll see more numbers trickling in, but I'm just wondering what that's looked like this week.
Yeah.
So again, the numbers, I think the best numbers are going to be students and seats starting tomorrow and for the next few days, because we've had a number of students, families choose to go to WIA, which made some movement. We've had some families make some decisions to homeschool over these last 5 to 10 days. We've had some shifting, and so we've seen some class sizes that have in certain schools that are a little smaller than we would anticipate. But we honestly need to see students and seats, and what we've done for the last couple of years, I'm not sure if they did it prior to, is literally a daily count starting on Thursday, where our schools report back to my team. So we're able to really make those adjustments when need be. But for right now, to be able to say, are we hitting we're on our projection, but our projection is lower than we want to be. But over the next 2 days, and I'll make sure the board is aware on Friday where we stand in those pieces. So I wish I had a better answer for you, but honestly, the best answer is in a couple of days.
No, that's helpful. Thank you.
Paul, in regards to that, what's the count date on that?
So the official count date will be September. Jeanette, I want to say, but I'm going to hand it over to Jeanette.
Official count day is not until September 8th, actually, because it's the 4th school day in September.
Thank you, Jeanette.
Yeah.
I'm really grateful that our budget and our board supports the opportunity for the Internet Academy, giving families that option if they are not comfortable with in-person school. And I know some students actually perform better under that model. So great chance for those students to thrive. And I just think during this pandemic, it's super important that we give families options.
And one of those options, I know this is the budget piece, is our Valley Academy of Learning. It is a great parent partnership program. If parents are really thinking about that homeschooling option, this is an option I would highly encourage people to look at because Greg Lovercamp and his team do an amazing job out there. So we have a wide variety, to Laura's point, we have a wide variety of options for our students to be schooled within our school district. Thank you.
Yeah. Any other discussion on the budget? This is a roll call vote. Signify by saying aye if you approve, nay if you do not. Michelle?
Aye.
Julie?
Aye.
Maria?
Aye.
Martin?
Aye.
And Laura is aye as well. That motion carries. Thank you. The next action item on the board is resolution number 04-21. This is the 180-day school day waiver, which changes the number of school days from 180 to 176. And the purpose of the reduction is to allow for a full day parent-teacher conferences. And that's been successful in the past. So doing this again. Anything else you want to say about that, Paul?
For this one, no, that was beautifully said. It's a 3-year request.
And that we are required to ask for the waiver because otherwise by law, we are required to have the 180 days.
Yes, thank you. And I want to make sure that we are hitting the number of hours that are required for our students to attend school. So we will hit the OSPI guidance of the number of total hours each student must be in school. So that is not that is not an impact to our students' educational opportunities within our schools. It is literally an opportunity to make sure that our parents have an opportunity, and guardians and family members have an opportunity with their teachers. We put 3 in the fall, and very purposefully, especially this year, is making those connections with our students, with all the testing that assessment we're going to be giving our students, and really making sure that those conference days in October are super meaningful. That's why we have 3 in the fall and we have 1 in the springtime.
So quick question, this waiver then doesn't help us with trying to do the launch to learn things like we did last year. It doesn't enable us to use any additional days or anything.
It does not. We still do not have that flexibility that OSPI gave us on what they considered a student attendance. That was that was the biggest waiver, was the language around what constituted a student's attendance day. And a student's attendance day could be, that contact with a teacher. Those rules are not in place, which allowed us for that amazing launch to learn that so many parents, including parents on this board, to be really honest.
And so even if those days didn't count, contracts and other things then prevent us from being able to do that outside the required curriculum.
Correct, because it was such a intensive one-on-one aspect with our kids and our families. It took literally for our elementary schools to be able to pull it off 5 entire days, and some of those drifted into the late afternoon hours for us to be able to achieve that outcome. Again, with the flexibility OSPI granted us a year ago, it was pretty amazing, but we do not have that same flexibility to be able to pull that same thing off.
Okay, so is there a motion on the floor to approve resolution 0421? I don't believe there is. Could I have a motion, please?
So moved. I'm not going to repeat it. Sorry, it's not in front of me.
I'll second.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded. Is there any further discussion? Signify by saying aye if you approve, nay if you do not. Julie?
Aye.
Maria?
Aye.
Martin?
Aye.
Michelle?
Aye.
And Laura is aye, and that motion passes. Thank you. Okay, so the only other 2 things that we have on our agenda tonight is board communication and then our superintendent's report. So in regards to the items that we weren't able to address tonight, I guess we will simply forward those to the next meeting. Is there a need to have a special meeting to cover any of those items, or is the next meeting soon enough?
From my perspective, the next meeting is soon enough to be able to do that, which is, I believe, September 14th, Laura. So we will bring back our director of CTE and the director of the Technical Skills Center, along with Eric, as we discuss our graduation policy, because that was also here tonight. So we'll bring all those individuals back.
Okay. And I guess between now and that next meeting, we need to think about how things went tonight and what, if anything, we're going to do differently for meetings, going forward. As was stated multiple times in the meeting today, public comment is always welcome and appreciated. We cannot conduct the business of the board in a disorderly fashion when folks are calling out from the audience. And I realize that it's emotional and it's tempting, and people are only standing up for what they think is right. And I can appreciate and respect that. But it's our job to maintain an environment where we can conduct the business of the board at the same time honoring those who wish to comment. So thank you for those who continued on and commented with us this evening. Written comments are always accepted via our email addresses, which are on the district website. And yeah, that's all I have to say for now on that topic.
I have some. Are we on the board communication? Is that?
Yep, we are.
Okay. So I just wanted to share with you guys that I attended 6 of the Meet Your Teacher nights or new 6th grade orientation at a couple of the middle schools and a few of the elementary schools. And it was fabulous to see our families and our kids back in the buildings and our staff welcoming them. Seeing counselors, our paras, teachers, administrators, nurses, it was fabulous. And so, you know, I think everybody was excited. The kids were just as excited as the teachers and the parents. So, you know, I got a chance to talk to a lot of parents and as well as staff. And I think the feeling was mutual just to see kids back in the building, getting back to a new normal. And thank you to our staff for making sure that, you know, today at Foothills, they were talking about, you know, the lunch process, which is going to look a little bit different than what they were used to. Same thing with the gym and the technology, having the one-on-one devices. So yeah, good job. Kudos to everybody out of the buildings. It was great. And kudos to our families for being engaged in your children's education and partaking in those events. So thank you.
Yeah, I just want to comment, having kids in the district, it's so good to have all our kids back full time. And, you know, it's great to go to an open house and see everybody kind of wearing their masks, wearing them properly, and making sure that we're keeping all our kids safe. And yeah, I know it feels like a long time for all of us, not just the staff and the board and the students, but the community too. And I want you to think back a year ago, right? We thought we were going to be in person, and then our rates started going up, and then we weren't given permission to open. It's still a little scary out there in our community in terms of our rates, but I'm really thankful that we have our mitigation strategies and that people know how to mask. And I look forward to continued success in our buildings, hoping that we don't have, you know, quarantine issues and such, because we're doing the proper mitigation. So we're further than we were last year at this time in terms of having everybody back in the building. So it's been a long road, but I want us to recognize that we're not at the same place we were a year ago. So.
And I was going to say talk about a couple of things today, but I'm actually going to roll most of them forward to a calmer day. But what I do want to say is that there's a lot that we see that is good, solid progress earned with hard work over a long period of time. And we need to applaud and recognize that work that's done by staff and achieved by students and with support from partners in the community, just as a general comment. But as I say, I'll save my spiel for later, except Paul, you have 2 employees who are state employees of the year. Are you going to include that in your superintendent's report?
I am, but I'm actually next board meeting. We're going to invite some special guests.
Okay, save it till then.
So I'm going to save it till then, but we have already lined some special guests up for our board and our community to be able to celebrate some state and really amazing award winners across our region. So we're excited to be welcoming them next week to us. So thank you for that. That was a great one. That was a good toss over, Martin. You work in TV?
Like saying nothing.
So I know this meeting's been a little strange, so I don't know the appropriate place for any of it, but the questions I'm still getting from folks, I'm very excited to start school tomorrow. This is literally a school night, so I'm yay for that. And I appreciate all the work the teachers have been doing to get everyone, familiar with the new systems now. I've been to a lot of these, meet the crew events. So, but the question that I'm still getting a lot of is maybe, I don't want to add now too much to the next meeting, but can we get a real detailed rundown of what is our recovery plan looking like? You kind of explained it last meeting. I got that. But it was in reference to things we talked about in March. And I don't, now that we're getting back in the building, I want to know sort of if kids are needing extra resources, what does that look like? Who's responsible for doing that? How is that working? Because I don't think it's been entirely clear. And that seems to be the comment that I hear a lot of. So just kind of would appreciate that if not for me, for, others.
Yeah, we can add that to the next agenda meeting, but I would reiterate that we have a very solid plan, and we'd be happy to share that with the board again on the 14th.
Yeah, just, like I said, the meat and potatoes, even details that say, hey, we talked about this, it's kind of the recap, because I'm just not sure I know what it is even still. So I appreciate that. The other, not to be, hot button topics, but I know a lot of the local boards and things are trying to, I'd say, do polite correspondence to the governor about the vaccine mandates. And I'm limiting just this topic to the vaccine mandate. So I'm curious if there's any interest on this board. And I don't know if we've heard from many staff that they would leave, but I'm really concerned that a mandate, and this is not meant to be a anti-vax issue or anything, but I think you catch more flies with honey than with, something else, poison. So, if there wouldn't be an interest in our board kind of joining this effort in corresponding with the governor saying, let's not mandate, but maybe, our own level, we could incentivize. But I'm worried about, we're just getting rolling, and what happens if folks decide to decline? Are we now in a bad staffing place? We've seen the outcry in the medical community. I haven't seen it as much here, but I know I would hate to have that disruption. And so, our local jurisdictions have put together some pretty polite correspondence that I think would help say, hey, can we make this, make this optional or not have it mandated, so that, there's a whole litany of reasons. I could also get into why I think it sort of games the system for those who elect not to get it and then come back and get it. And, not getting into that, but just, I would personally like to do something like that, because I worry that if we have a hard stop date, that we end up with employees that may decide to walk off, and then we're in a world of hurt with students and disruptions and whatnot. So just kind of wanted to get a sense. Sorry, didn't know where in the agenda to put that.
Well, I read an article that Wenatchee World ran with both our superintendent and Eastmont superintendent on how that's being addressed in both the districts. It sounds like both of the superintendents, and I don't want to speak for you, Paul. I'll let you summarize what you said, but it seemed that, our district really wants to understand, if there are limitations for folks who are getting vaccines, whether it's, a religious exemption or something else, so that we're going to be working with our staff. So I'm just going to keep it brief at that, but Paul, maybe you can say more about that, that, even though there's a state mandate, it really felt like from the article that both districts are really going to be doing their best to meet people where they are, to understand that, realizing that obviously we still want to keep kids safe. So it's a balance, I guess, right? That's my input.
It is a balance. It's exactly what I said to the World Reporter. We have to work with our staff, making sure that they have all the available options. We were just given the religious exemption within the last 24 hours, trying to get that out, and then making sure that we're following through with on the medical side of things as well, making sure that our staff know those two approaches and recognizing where people are at. So our approach is to work with our staff. The reality is currently there is a hard deadline, and that is coming up in the coming weeks to make sure you're fully vaccinated if you're not doing the Johnson & Johnson. If you're doing a Moderna or Pfizer, I don't have the exact date in my head, but to have them, you basically need 6 weeks out from October 18th to have everything done by. But I know Kelly Lopez, our Executive Director of Human Resources, and others within the Human Resources Department are in communication on a regular basis with our staff. And I know a few people have reached out with some concerns, and Kelly is working with those individuals on those concerns. But I think it will be even more informative once we have both of the exemptions out to our staff. I think I'll have a better sense of where we stand as an organization in the coming days, because that was just put out literally in the last 24 hours to our staff.
I agree. You know, what Julie's sentiment about, you know, getting farther with honey than, you know, with the hammer or whatever the antithesis of honey is. And I also read the newspaper where it sounded to me like our superintendents are, you know, attempting to work with people to get through the process. I do have a hard time thinking, never in all my years in the school board have I ever known of an instance where there was a hard line drawn as this hard line has been drawn. And is this the thing that it's really necessary to have that strong hammer on? And then the answer to that question. But I agree with the sentiment.
I think it's very important to recognize that there will be a medical exemption. There will be a religious exemption. That is a complicated issue that needs to be dealt with tact and gentleness. But fundamentally, I think being a good neighbor means that unless you've got a medical or a religious exemption, vaccination is how you protect your schools and your community. And I think it is reasonable to require that for the safety of all. Going about it in an intelligent way is important, but I would not be in favor of asking that to be removed.
Okay. Paul, do you have some other things for us under your report?
Just the excitement of bringing our students back. And I know it's kind of gotten lost in today's events, but we're here for kids and doing right by our kids. And I'm excited about our 1,200 employees who are working day and night to make sure tomorrow and the rest of the year that we stay fully open. This is a team game. We are all in this thing together, and we want to make sure that we open fully tomorrow, and we're fully open by the time our last day in June arrives. That is my number one driving force. It is creating the safe environment for each of our students, each of our staff members in our community. I think that's the weight that sits on my shoulders and the board's shoulders, is creating this safe environment for our people. We are one of the largest, second to third largest employer in the entire valley. It is incumbent upon us that we work together as a team to do this right as a team. And right now, it doesn't feel like there's team Wenatchee right now. It feels like we have a real division, and that saddens me. It does, because it's about that kindergarten who's going to go in through for this next week. We have a little bit of testing for our kinders, but when they walk in their first day with their full class with whatever excitement they have, that's what I'm excited for. I'm excited for that senior in high school to start something that, quite honestly, the last 2 years, the other students have not had that same kind of opportunity. I'm excited for that. Excited for our staff. And I know there's some still fear. And I just want people to know our plan is a solid plan. Our plan, when we're fully following it, this plan will work, but it's a plan that's about teamwork. That's what this is, that we got each other's back. We're there for each other. And that was the community that I knew when I got here, when I was fully embraced a little over 2 years ago, that we're a community. We're about our kids. And tomorrow starts that. And that's what I'm excited about, is getting back to our students, getting back to our educators, getting back to all of our incredible classified staff members who are welcoming our students across this district. So I'm excited for tomorrow. I'm ready, as Michelle somewhat put, ready to turn the page and move forward with our acceleration plan that I've spoken about last week, and we spoke about in March, and then again I'll speak about it on September 14th. But a comprehensive, thoughtful plan, from safety and mitigation to how we're supporting students academically, to creating a thriving environment for each of our kids, that they feel safe, they feel seen, they feel heard, and they can show up as their authentic self. That's why we do what the board does, and why superintendents and others do what we do. So I'm excited about that. So I'll hop off my soapbox here and hand it back over to you, Laura.
Okay, well, if we have no further business, I will adjourn the meeting and plan to see everybody back.
I apologize, Laura. Can I jump in? Does the board, we do have an executive session that
You're right.
So if we could, do you still have that in front of you, Laura? And
I can find it, I think. Hold on. Just
a closed session?
We have both, do we not?
Correct.
We have
Correct.
both. Okay. I have a script here, executive session script. Here we go. How long do we anticipate?
60 minutes total.
60 minutes,
So-
okay. The board will now recess into executive session for a period of 60 minutes to evaluate the qualifications of an applicant for public employment or to review the performance of a staff member pursuant to district policy number 1410 and RCW 42.30.110. This discussion is closed to the public. The school board is not expected to take final action. Do you also need me to read the statement regarding the closed session?
No, we're good.
Okay.
So Ron, will you support us as we?
Yeah, once you adjourn this meeting, stay in it. I will stop the streams, stop the recording, and we will have just the board in the meeting. And when I confirm that is the case, you can move forward after that.
So board, how about we try to come back at 8:35, give ourselves a 5-minute moment, and then we'll come back.
Okay.
Thank you.